The cemetery was quiet at first. Green and white tents flap in the wind. Mourners on black capon and black anchor fill the tent. A silver casket rests above a dark open grave lined with fresh cement. On the casket lies Andrew Johnson, the billionaire CEO, only son of 3 towers on Victoria Island. His eyes closed, cotton wool tucked in his nostrils and his skin pale. His parents stand beside his casket with a folded handkerchief. Tears shine in their eyes. A pastor clears his throat. 2 grave workers step forward to lower the casket. Then a voice tears the air like thunder. Stop. Don't bury him. Everyone turned and shocked at the statement. Some of the mourners lifted their phones to record the unfolding drama. At the back, a young mad woman in a tattered brown coat pushes through the crowd. Her hair is wild, long, tangled, and unkempt, framing a face filled with desperation and fire. A dirty old bag hangs on her shoulder, heavy with the life she still carries. People pull away from her as if she is a storm. The woman points straight at Jackson. Her hand trembles, but her voice does not. He's not dead, she cries. I said, don't bury him. Who is this? Someone whispers. Mad woman, another mutters. Security, a voice commands. 4 guards move to block her, but she steps sideways, determined, her eyes wild with conviction. The wind lifts her coat like wings as she pushes forward. She stops at the edge of the mat where the casket rests and faces the stunned crowd. My name is Benny, she says, then lets out a strange, broken laugh. The people recoil in fear, shifting away from her unpredictable presence. Listen to me, she pleads, her voice echoing. This boy is alive. Andrew Johnson stiffens. His mouth hardens. Get this mad woman out, he snaps. Jackson is my only son. He is gone. We will bury him in peace. The mourners murmured. The pastor lowers his Bible. The grave workers pause. The mad woman points again. Firm, steady. He is not gone, she says. He was given a substance. It slows the breathing. It makes the body cold. It fools the eye. He looks dead, but he is not. Give him the neutralizer. Now, a wave of shock washes over the mourners. Someone whispers, neutralizer. Another says, what is she talking about? Another said, are you sure this woman is really mad or she's pretending to be mad? Camera tilt closer. A reporter leans in. Mr. Andrews' face tightens with anger. Enough, he says, turning to the guards. Remove this mad woman from here. But Benny the mad woman does not move. The guards couldn't move her. She lifts her chin and to the man by the side of Mr. Andrew. It was Andrew Johnson's younger brother Michael, she says softly, like she knows him. You know what you did. And Dr. Daniel knows too. The name drops like a stone in water, eyes flick to the left. The family Dr. Daniel stands with his stethoscope tucked in his pocket, his lips pressed in. He looks at the mad woman the way a person looks at a locked door. Pastor, Andrew says, voice sharp. Continue the service. The pastor hesitates. His fingers tremble on the page. Benny takes one slow step closer to the casket. Her eyes soften when she looks at Jackson. Boy, she whispers almost to herself. Hold on. Then she raises her voice. Check his mouth. Touch his wrist. Warm his chest. He is there. I heard the plan with my own ears. Michael spoke of quick burial. Dr. Daniel signed the paper. Please give him the neutralizer. The hush deepens. Even the tents stop flapping as if listening. A woman in purple lace steps out from the first row. It was Jackson's aunt. What? She shouted, her hands shake. If there is a chance, she says we should check. Jackson's mother added, this is my only son, she wept, crying heavily. That is not necessary. Andrew's brother snaps. Sweat shines on his forehead. We did everything. The doctor confirmed. Mr. Andrew supported his brother as if he were being controlled. Mr. Andrew trusted his brother so much and believed whatever he says. Let them check. Someone says from the crowd. What will it cost? Another voice joins. We know she is a mad woman, but you never can tell. Another person followed. Just check. Now the murmur grows into a wave. Heads nod. Eyes narrow at Michael's. The guards look unsure. Dr. Daniel clears his throat. This is ridiculous, he says, forcing a smile. Grief is making strangers speak nonsense. I examined. Benny turns to him, gentle but firm. Doctor, this family gave you a hospital. They bought you a car. They trusted you. Something flickers in Dr. Daniel's eyes. He looks at Michael. Michael gives the smallest shake of his head. And that is when Benny drops his bag on the grass, kneels by the casket, and does a simple thing. She takes off her coat and folds it into a pillow. Please, she says to the pastor, to anyone brave enough. Help me sit him up a little. Just a little. Everyone was still afraid to get close to Benny the madwoman. Some gathered courage and came closer. The madwoman said, the boy needs air. Then opened his mouth, only a drop. Silence. The kind of silence that hurts. A woman steps forward. It was Jackson's mother again. Putting on black burial cloth with black hair tie. Her eyes are wet. I am his mother, she says. If there is one small thing we can do, we will do it. The spell breaks, his father followed and two women move. A young man in a black suit places his hand under Jackson's shoulders. The grave workers step back to give space. Together, carefully, they lift Jackson just enough for Benny to slide the folded coat beneath his neck. Up close, Jackson's face looks like sleep. The cotton wool in his nostrils is white against his skin. Please remove the wool, Benny the madwoman says softly. Slowly, the mother nods and with gentle fingers pulls the cotton free. The air seems to move again. Benny takes a small brown vial from her bag. It looks old, like it has seen many roads. She holds it up for everyone to see. Neutralizer, she says. His body was slowed by something bitter. This will walk him back. Michael lunges, but two mourners step between him and Benny. Let her try, one says. If it fails, we bury. If it works, then what? Michael spits. Then what? Then we thank God, the mother says, eyes sharp as a blade. Dr. Daniel's jaw clenches. Do not put strange liquid, doctor, the mother says. If you are sure he is gone, this will do nothing. Let her try. All eyes settle on the vial. The sun slips out from behind a cloud and rests like a hand on the scene, on the casket, on the open grave, on the woman in the tattered coat, who looks like hope. Benny kneels. Her hands are steady now, made strong by purpose. She twists the cap and dips the glass dropper into the vial. She turns to the mother. Please help me open his mouth. The mother slides a finger gently at the corner of Jackson's lips. The young man in black lifts Jackson a little more. Benny leans close. The crowd leans with her. Michael trembles. If you do this, he begins, but his voice cracks. Benny holds the dropper above Jackson's mouth. One drop, she whispers. Come back. She squeezes. A single clear drop falls. It lands on Jackson's tongue. Everywhere was quiet, waiting for what happens next. Benny counts under his breath. 1, 2, 3, nothing. 4. 5. A wind shivers through the tent. 6. Benny's hand shakes. She raises the dropper for one more drop. Don't you dare. Michael shouts, stepping forward. Jackson's father lifts his palm. Stay back. Benny squeezes. The second drop falls. And in that tiny space between drop and tongue, before it touches, a sound crawls up from Jackson's chest. So faint it could be wind or memory. Was that a cough? The drop touches. Jackson's throat moves. His lips part. And then the air around the cemetery broke into chaos. Screams, shouts, prayers, and gasps filled the place all at once. Phones tilted wildly, recording what no one could believe. Jackson's hand had twitched, and now his lips parted with a faint cough. The sound was so soft, yet it cut through the noise like lightning. Benny's eyes burned with hope. She leaned closer. He's coming back, she said, voice trembling, but sure. I told you he's alive. The mother clutched Jackson's wrist, and her face lit up. He's warm. Lord have mercy. He's warm, she cried. Another woman screamed and fell to her knees in prayer, chanting, God is great. God is great. But Michael was not moved. His face twisted into fury. As Jackson's body stirred, his hand darted inside his jacket pocket. He pulled out something small, metallic, its glint caught in the sunlight. Benny froze. Was it a knife, a syringe, or worse? Stay back. Michael roared, his eyes wide, spittle on his lips. He belongs in the ground. Do you hear me? In the ground. Two men in black suits lunged toward him, but he shoved them away with desperate strength. The crowd surged backward, panicked. Mothers pulled children close. Mr. Andrew and his wife were surprised and shocked. The pastor dropped his Bible, his voice cracking in fear. Benny the mad woman did not move. She stood her ground, her ragged coat brushing the grass, her long tattered hair shaking with the wind. Her voice thundered again, stronger than before. Look at him, Andrew. Look at his son. He breathes. Everyone turned. And there it was, Jackson's chest, rising and falling, weak, but undeniable. Another cough burst from his throat, louder this time. His eyes fluttered like heavy doors trying to open. The crowd gasped as one. The mother shouted, "He's alive. He's alive." Jackson's lips trembled, and a hoarse whisper escaped. Why? His eyes half opened, glassy, and confused. He stared at the man looming over him. His voice grew louder, filled with pain. Uncle, why? The scene shifted in an instant. The strength drained from Michael's body. His hand dropped, the metallic object slipping from his fingers. It clattered onto the concrete beside the grave, a small syringe filled with cloudy liquid. Gasps rippled again through the morass. The guards pounced, pinning him to the ground as he kicked and screamed. No. Michael roared. He was supposed to be gone. He was supposed to be. His words were cut off as the guards twisted his arms behind him. Sweat drenched his face and the mask of grief he had worn melted into naked rage. All eyes swung to Dr. Daniel. The doctor had stepped backward, his face drained of color. He tugged nervously at his collar, sweat sliding down his temple. I pronounced what I saw. He stammered. I thought he was gone. Benny's voice cut sharp through the air. Liar. You helped him. You signed his death knowing he still lived. It was not to reach ability. Jackson coughed again, this time stronger. He struggled upright with the mother's help, his hair tumbling loose, his skin damp with sweat. His eyes red and fierce, locked on Andrew's younger brother. Tears spilled, but his voice shook with power. What did I ever do to you? What did my family ever do to you? He said, his words cracking the silence. To deserve this. Andrew's younger brothers froze in the arms of the guards. Jackson's voice rose, trembling with anger and sorrow. My family gave you power. We trusted you with a branch of our empire. We loved you despite our wealth. Jackson's parents wept, pointing at Michael that was held by the guards. And this is how you repay us. The crowd erupted in murmurs. Some wept. Others shook their heads in disbelief. Jackson's gaze shifted to Dr. Daniel, who stood rooted like a guilty tree. And you, he spat, his voice trembling. My parents built your hospital. They gave you a car. They lifted you when you had nothing. How could you betray us with him? Dr. Daniel stammered, his lips fumbling for words. But the truth was already clear, written in his sweat. In his silence, Jackson's strength faltered, and he swayed. Benny was at her side in an instant, steadying him with gentle, calloused hands. Her voice was soft now, stripped of thunder. Easy, you are safe. She turned to him, her eyes meeting his. They were filled with tears, but beneath them was a glimmer of gratitude. Fierce and raw. For the first time, he saw past the ragged tattered coat. He saw the mad woman who had saved his life. Who are you? He whispered, his breath shaky. Why did you do this? Benny lowered her eyes, her voice rough like gravel. Because I knew the truth, she said. But you are mad. She nodded in agreement, but at times I get myself, she said. I heard him yesterday in his car. He spoke of quick burial, of silence, of how the empire would be his after you are gone, and he said his brother trusted him so much and he would do anything he says. I couldn't let it happen. Not again. The moras drew closer, hanging on every word. Jackson clung to her arm, his body trembling, his breath shallow but steady. His voice cracked as he spoke. You saved me. You gave me back my life. Michael screamed again, thrashing against the guards. He should be mine. Everything should be mine. But his cries fell flat, drowned out by the prayers rising from the crowd, by the sobs of those who had loved Jackson, by the furious glares turned his way. Sirens wailed in the distance. The police were coming. Benny, still kneeling at Jackson's side, lifted his head toward the approaching sound. His eyes burned, not with pride, but with something deeper. Sorrow, the memory of his own broken life, weighed on him like chains, Jackson noticed. He touched her hand weakly. "Stay with me," he whispered. "Don't leave my side." And as the police vehicles roared into the cemetery gates, their red lights flashing against the marble tombstones, everyone turned to watch the end of one chapter and the trembling beginning of another. Because Jackson Andrew, thought dead, now breathed again. And the woman who had dragged him back from the grave, the mad woman they had all ignored, was about to change everything. The officer stepped forward, the guards shoved Mr. Michael into their arms. Dr. Daniel's knees buckled and he fell to the ground sobbing. The police read the charges aloud. Attempted murder, conspiracy, betrayal. But Benny said nothing. She only held Jackson steady as he sat upon his own casket, the man who refused to die. And in that moment, with flashing lights bouncing across her weathered face, the world saw Benny not as a mad woman, not as a sick person, but as the voice that had stopped death itself. Jackson whispered again, this time louder, tears streaming down his cheeks, "Thank you for saving me." And the crowd, still in shock, leaned forward, wondering what would happen next. A few weeks after the incident, Jackson and his family flew her abroad to get the best treatment. The court was overflowing. Every seat was taken. Every corner crammed with people pressing forward to witness the case that had gripped the nation. Outside, television vans lined the street, cameras flashing as anchors whispered into microphones. The news was everywhere. Billionaire Johnson Andrews' son rose from the dead. His uncle and family doctor arrested in shocking conspiracy. Jackson himself entered slowly, supported by Benny once the mad woman, on one side and Jackson's parents on the other. His steps were unsteady, but his head was lifted high. He wore a plain black trouser and white shirt with black tie and suit. He is handsome and cute and his presence filled the room. Gasps rippled through the crowd as he sat down at the front, his eyes fixed on the accused. Uncle Michael sat in the dock, his face pale, his eyes cold. Gone was the mask of grief he had worn at the funeral. Now his lips curled in disdain as he glanced at Jackson's father who has despised him. Beside him sat Dr. Daniel, his head bowed, his hands trembling. Sweat darkened his shirt under the courtroom's bright lights. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair and sharp glasses, banged her gavel. This court is now in session. The case of the state versus Michael Andrew and Dr. Daniel Auri. Charges: attempted murder, conspiracy to murder, and medical malpractice. It's woman. The prosecutor rose, his voice firm and cutting. My lord, what we have before us is not a simple matter of greed. It is the cold-blooded plot of a man who sought to bury his nephew alive, aided by a doctor who betrayed his oath. Their aim was to seize control of his brother's empire, billions in assets, companies that feed families across this nation. But for the courage of one woman, this wickedness would have been sealed under the soil, the crowd murmured. Many glanced at Benny, who sat quietly at Jackson's side. Her cloth washed now, her beard cut, her long hair were properly styled with beautiful hair bond, though her face still bore the scars of hardship. She looked down, uncomfortable under the sudden attention. The prosecutor turned toward Michael. Do you deny plotting to poison your brother's son with a slow-acting compound designed to mimic death? Do you deny instructing this doctor to pronounce his death prematurely and rush his burial? Michael leaned forward, his voice cold. I deny everything. This is nothing but lies spun by a mad vagrant. My brother's son was dying already. I merely accepted it. Gasps. Jackson's jaw clenched. He rose suddenly, his voice shaking with rage. You liar, he cried, tears streaming down his face. Look at me, uncle. I loved you so much. Ever since your family died in that car accident, I took you like my own father. I did everything you told me to do. My father gave you half of the empire, all to yourself. But you had the heart to try to kill me. You poisoned my food. You forced our family doctor, our friend, to swear that I was dead. You tried to bury me alive like trash, as if I meant nothing to you. Your own blood. The judge banged the gavel sharply. Order in the court, but the electricity in the air was uncontainable. The prosecutor lifted a small vial sealed in evidence bagging. My lord, this was retrieved from the syringe found beside the grave. Analysis proves it is a paralytic toxin capable of slowing the heartbeat, making the victim appear dead. Only a trained doctor could confirm life. And yet this doctor signed a death certificate. All eyes turned to Dr. Daniel, his face collapsed. He sobbed openly, his words tumbling. I was forced. He threatened me. Michael said if I didn't help, he would ruin me. He said I would lose my hospital his brother built for him and my family too. I swear I only signed because I was afraid. Jackson's face darkened. Afraid? You let him put me in a coffin. You let them lower me into the earth. You betrayed your oath and me. Dr. Daniel buried his face in his hands. Forgive me, Jackson. Forgive me. The prosecutor turned to the judge. My lord, we have the poison. We have the syringe. We have the testimony of the victim himself. And we have the witness, the woman who risked her life to speak the truth. Benny froze as the prosecutor's hand gestured toward her. The entire court turned to face her. Whispers filled the room. That was the same mad woman who had once stopped the funeral. The judge nodded. Miss Benny Okoro, please step forward. Benny rose slowly, each step echoing in the silent hall. She stopped at the witness stand, her rough hands gripping the wooden rail. The oath was read. She swore, her voice low but steady. The prosecutor leaned close. Mississippi Benny Okoro, tell this court what you witnessed. Benny lifted her head, her eyes scanning the hall. She swallowed hard. Then her voice rang out. Come but heavy with truth. The day before the burial, I was under the bridge where I sleep. I heard a car parked nearby. Two men were inside, Michael and Dr. Daniel. They were arguing. I heard Michael say, the poison worked. He is cold already. Tomorrow we bury him before anyone suspects. The doctor said he was scared, but Michael told him, do as I say, or you'll lose everything. The crowd erupted again. The judge shouted for silence. Benny's voice grew stronger. I knew then that if I didn't speak, they would bury him alive. I waited at the cemetery. When they brought his coffin, I begged them to stop. They called me mad woman, but I saw his fingers twitch. I could not let them lower him in. She paused, her eyes moist. I lost my parents and my younger sister years ago. That's what broke me and pushed me into that mental state. Sometimes I regained myself, other times I fell back into it. For years, I lived that way because I had no one, no family, no support. I remained there, hoping that one day God would send me a helper. I was powerless then, but not this time. Not again. The silence in the room was thick, broken only by the quiet sobbing of a few women in the gallery. Jackson's eyes filled with tears. He whispered, God bless you, Benny. The defense attorney rose, his tone mocking. So we are to believe the word of a mad woman, a woman who sleeps under bridges. How do we know she did not imagine these words? How do we know she wasn't paid by my client's enemies to cause chaos? Benny's jaw tightened. She stood taller. I may have lost my mind once. I may have slept on the streets. But one thing about me, I never lie. I have nothing to gain, only the truth to tell. The judge leaned forward, her face stern. The witness has spoken with courage. Let the court weigh his words alongside the evidence. Michael slammed his fist on the table. She's lying. They are all lying. But his voice cracked, desperate, hollow. The gavel struck again. Order. As the trial moved on, one truth was clear. The mask of Michael had fallen. The empire he dreamed of was slipping from his grasp, and Benny, the woman he would never have noticed in his richest days, now stood as the key to his downfall. And as Jackson sat, his hand clutching Benny's, a new thought sparked in the hearts of all watching. Perhaps this was not just his resurrection, but her, too. The trial of truth had begun, and nothing would remain the same. The trial stretched into days. Each morning, the courtroom overflowed with reporters, business magnates, and ordinary people who had come just to see Jackson Andrew alive and speaking. Every evening, the headlines blazed across Nigeria. From grave to courtroom, Jackson's shocking return. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Michael sat stiff, his once perfect suit wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights. Gone was the smooth-talking businessman the public once admired. He looked like a caged animal, pacing, snarling whenever a witness spoke against him. Dr. Daniel, in contrast, grew weaker with every session. He avoided Jackson's father's eyes, his shoulders bent as though carrying the weight of his betrayal. Sometimes he muttered prayers under his breath, his fingers trembling whenever evidence was shown. On the fourth day, the prosecutor called forward a new witness, Jackson's personal driver, Chika, a large man with honest eyes. He stepped to the stand, his voice steady. My lord, he began. On the night my boss' son collapsed, I drove him to the hospital. He was struggling to breathe. But when we reached the gate, Dr. Daniel told me to leave, that he would handle it privately. I begged to stay. He refused. 2 hours later, he told us he was dead. The court gasped. Jackson covered her mouth, tears streaming down his cheeks. Chika bowed his head. I knew something was wrong. My august son was weak but not gone. I should have fought harder. The prosecutor nodded. So you confirm, Mr. Chika, that Dr. Daniel insisted on isolation and gave no room for second opinion? Yes, sir. The defense squirmed. Their case was collapsing like a wall of sand under rain. Next came the toxicologist presenting charts and slides. The substance found in the syringe is called tetrodotoxin. In low doses, it mimics death, slows heartbeat, freezes muscles, masks breath. Without advanced equipment, one could easily mistake the victim for a corpse. It was intentional. This was no accident. The room fell silent. The weight of the evidence pressed on everyone. Finally, the judge turned to Michael. Mr. Andrew, you have heard the charges, the testimony, the scientific proof. Do you have anything to say before this court passes judgment? Michael rose slowly, his face twisted, half fury, half despair. His voice cracked as he spoke. Yes. I have something to say. I loved Jackson once, like my own son. But his father, he always bragged about him, always boasting that no one could ever be like his boy. He said when he died, he would will all his companies to Jackson. Everything was always about his son, the empire, the billions, the power, and he never stopped reminding me that I had nothing. That I had lost my family in that car accident. What was I then? A shadow in his house. A brother only by name. I was supposed to share in their glory, yet they made me feel like a servant in my own home. Jackson flinched as though struck. The audience murmured, stunned. Michael's voice rose, trembling with anger. So yes. I wanted it all. I wanted what was mine. If he had to die for me to live and take over his empire, so be it. Chaos erupted. Shouts, gasps, cries of outrage filled the court. The judge banged his gavel furiously. Order. Order in the court. Jackson's father's tears spilled freely now. He stood, trembling but strong, his voice rising above the noise. You fool. You are my brother, my own blood. I listened to you more than anyone else. I gave you half of my empire without you ever asking for it. What more did you want from me? How did I offend you? Was I the cause of your family's death? I did everything for you as a brother, but your greed drowned you. You tried to kill my son, your own nephew, and now, you have destroyed yourself. Michael's eyes burned with madness. I regret nothing, he roared, his voice echoing through the courtroom. The guards surged forward as he tried to leap across the dock. They held him down as chaos erupted in the hall. Shackles clinking as he screamed curses. Dr. Daniel broke into sobs, collapsing onto the floor of the dock. Forgive me, my lord. Forgive me, Jackson. Forgive me, Mr. and Mrs. Andrew. I betrayed everything I swore to be. I deserve death. The judge's gavel thundered once more. The hall fell into tense silence. Her voice was firm, unshaken. This court has heard enough. Michael Andrew, you are guilty of attempted murder, conspiracy to murder, and greed of the highest order. You are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment with hard labor. May your chains remind you of the life you tried to bury. Michael screamed as the guards dragged him away, his voice echoing. It should have been mine, all mine. The judge turned to Dr. Daniel, his expression stern. And you, Dr. Daniel, a man trusted with life, yet dealing in death. Your betrayal of your sacred oath is unforgivable. This court sentences you to life imprisonment. He paused as movement stirred in the courtroom. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson Andrew, along with their son, fell to their knees before the judge. Please, your lordship, Mr. Andrew pleaded, his voice breaking. Have mercy. He was forced and threatened. Anyone in his shoes might have done the same. We have forgiven him, please, temper justice with mercy. Their words filled the courtroom with emotion. Many in the crowd wept openly. Dr. Daniel too fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. Please, forgive me, he whispered. After a long silence, the judge sighed heavily. Very well. In consideration of the victim's forgiveness and your remorse, this court reduces your sentence to 5 years imprisonment. Dr. Daniel bowed his head, overwhelmed with gratitude. He turned to the Andrew family, tears in his eyes. Thank you, you saved my life. I swear, before God and man, never to walk this dark path again. The courtroom remained silent, the air heavy with both justice and mercy. Court dismissed. The hall erupted, some clapping, others weeping, all buzzing with the weight of history. Reporters rushed out to spread the verdict. Jackson, exhausted, sank into his seat. His body trembled with relief and pain. He whispered, "It's over." But beside him, Benny shook her head gently. "No, sir, it is only the beginning. You have your life again now. What will you do with it?" He turned to her, his eyes soft, his lips trembling with gratitude. "I wouldn't be here without you. You have no home, no rest. Yet you gave me both. Benny, you saved me." Benny looked away, her voice quiet. "I only did what I could not do before. My parents, my sister, I failed them. But this time, I could not fail." Jackson touched her hand firm and warm. "You did not fail. You were my miracle." Around them, people gathered, trying to shake Benny's hand, clapping her on the back, praising her. She had been invisible for years, a shadow on the streets. Now she stood in the light. The woman who stopped the burial, the woman who saved the billionaire's son. Jackson rose, still holding her hand. "You will not return to the bridge tonight," he said firmly. "From this day you walk with me. If I lived again, then so will you." Benny's throat tightened. Tears welled in her eyes, but she nodded silent. For the first time in years, she felt seen. And as they left the courtroom together, Jackson, his parents, and Benny at his side. The crowd outside roared like a storm. Cameras flashing, voices chanting her name. "Benny. Benny." The woman who stopped death. And though the chains had closed on Michael and Daniel, new doors were opening. Doors that neither Jackson nor Benny had ever imagined before. The battle for justice was won, but the journey of redemption had only just begun. The heavy doors of Jackson Andrews' mansion opened to a new season of life. The house that once smelled of morning now breathed fresh air. Its corridors filled with sunlight and hope. But behind the glow, the scars of betrayal lingered. After the trial ended, and Michael and Dr. Daniel was sentenced, Jackson invited Benny to stay at his estate. One evening after dinner, he led her into his private study. The room was lined with mahogany shelves, books stacked in neat rows, and a single lamp casting a warm glow. Jackson poured 2 glasses of water and gestured for Benny to sit. Her hands shook slightly as she held the cup. For a long time, she stared into it as though searching for courage. Finally, she spoke, her voice low and raw. "Ogre Jackson, there's something I've carried alone for years. Tonight, I must say it." Jackson leaned forward, his eyes soft with concern. She swallowed hard. "I wasn't always like this. I was once a dignified woman, a software engineer, a loving daughter and a caring sister, but one day," she continued softly, "everything collapsed. I lost my job, and my family was involved in a terrible car accident. My fiancé left me in that same dark moment, left me with nothing but a note." Her voice broke as tears filled her eyes. A note saying he was no longer interested, that I should move on with my life. And what shattered me the most was that he sent me his wedding invitation card. Jackson's eyes widened, tears glistening. Benny pressed her palms together tightly, struggling to hold back emotion. "The betrayal destroyed me," she whispered. "I wandered the streets like a madwoman. My mind broke. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't live. I slept under bridges because hope had abandoned me." Her shoulders trembled as she continued. "But yesterday, under that same bridge, I overheard Michael. He was on the phone in his car, planning to take over your companies after your burial. His words froze my blood. That's why I ran to the cemetery, to stop him, to warn you. That's why I stopped them." For a long moment, silence filled the study. Only the faint ticking of the clock could be heard. Jackson's hands shook as she reached across the table and clasped his. "Benny," he whispered, tears streaking down his cheeks. "You carried all that pain and still you risked your life for me. Do you know what that means?" Benny's voice cracked. "It means maybe I still have a reason to exist." In the days following her confession, Jackson refused to let Benny slip back into the shadows of his mansion. He saw something in her, not just a woman who had saved his life, but a mind sharpened by hardship and loss. At first, Benny resisted. "Sir, I am no longer the woman I used to be. Let me serve you quietly in the background," she said one morning as she helped carry files from his study. But Jackson shook his head. "You will not hide anymore. You have given me back my life. Let me give you back yours." So Benny began helping with small duties in Andrew's holdings, carrying files, checking schedules, organizing reports. She moved with humility, keeping her head down. Yet little by little, her hidden brilliance surfaced. One afternoon, during a tense board meeting, the company's director struggled with a corrupted presentation file. Panic spread across the room as investors waited impatiently. While others fumbled, Benny quietly stepped forward. In minutes, she reprogrammed the system and restored the slides. Gasps filled the room. "Where did you learn that?" a director asked in disbelief. Benny hesitated. "I was once a software engineer before everything fell apart." Jackson's eyes softened with pride. He rose and announced firmly, "From today, Benny is no longer a helper in the background. She is my special advisor, and her counsel will guide this company." The board members exchanged looks, some skeptical, others intrigued. But no one could deny the calm authority in Jackson's voice. For the first time in years, Benny stood tall. No longer a nameless wanderer, she was a woman reborn, and with her input, Andrew Holdings was never the same again. Jackson and Benny grew closer. They spent evenings in the study talking about life, faith, and second chances. He admired her honesty, her unpolished wisdom, her sincerity that cut deeper than diamonds. For the first time since his betrayal, he found his heart stirring. Quietly, Jackson wished she might love him, not as the billionaire the world saw, but as a man whose soul had been bruised. Yet Benny never seemed to notice the silent longing in his eyes. One afternoon, as they strolled in the garden, Benny spoke with unusual excitement. "Jackson, I want you to meet someone. His name is Simon. He is a worthy businessman, he is kind, gentle. He makes me smile again." Jackson's heart clenched. He forced a smile even as his chest ached. He had hoped foolishly that Benny might see his as more than a friend, but reality stood firm. She loved another. That night, Jackson cried alone in his room. Yet by dawn, he resolved his pain into strength. "If she cannot be mine, then I will support her happiness." When Simon proposed to Benny months later, Jackson insisted on sponsoring the wedding. "It is my honor," he told her, his smile hiding the bittersweet truth in his heart. The wedding day was beautiful. The garden was decorated with white roses and golden drapes. Benny stood tall in an elegant white beautiful wedding gown designed with shining stone, her eyes glowing as Simon, dressed in a cute white shirt and white trouser, black tie and white suit, walked toward her. Jackson watched from the front row, his eyes glistening. Though his heart once longed for her, he felt peace seeing her happy. When they exchanged vows, he clapped with genuine joy, whispering to himself, "This is what she deserves. Love, laughter, a new beginning." Months after Benny's marriage, fate surprised Jackson, too. At a charity gala, he met Beauty, a businesswoman known not for wealth alone, but for her humility and compassion. She admired Jackson not as a billionaire, but as a survivor. Their friendship grew into something deeper. Beauty brought back laughter into Jackson's life. And for the first time since his near death, he felt whole. When he proposed months later to Beauty, Beauty said yes. At their wedding, Benny and Simon sat proudly in the front row, clapping as he walked down the aisle. This time, there were no tears of regret, only gratitude. 1 year later, life blossomed again. Benny and Simon welcomed a baby boy whom they named Jonathan. Around the same time, Jackson and Beauty celebrated the birth of their baby girl, Ileliana. One golden evening, they gathered in the mansion's garden, the babies cradled in their arms. Benny rocked Jonathan gently while Jackson held Ileliana close to his chest. Tears filled their eyes as they looked at each other. They remembered how close death had come, how betrayal nearly buried them both. Yet here they were alive, surrounded by laughter, holding the promise of a future in tiny innocent hands. Benny raised her glass. "From ashes to dawn," she said softly. Jackson smiled, whispering back, "Yes, from ashes to dawn." But one name was never forgotten. Dr. Daniel. In prison, Daniels was a broken man. The arrogance that once fueled him had crumbled under the weight of iron bars. Life behind walls gnawed at him. And every night he replayed the moment he watched Jackson rise from the coffin. He began writing letters from prison, begging for forgiveness. At first, Jackson ignored them, but the letters never stopped. They grew humbler, soaked with regret. Jackson, I was blind. Fear consumed me. If I could turn back time, I would kneel at your feet and beg 1,000 times, please forgive me. Let my story be a warning to others, Jackson said quietly. 3 years later, on the 3rd anniversary of his survival, Jackson shocked the nation. At a grand event attended by his family, Benny, Beauty, Simon, and their children, he stood before the audience and spoke with a calm, steady voice. 3 years ago, I nearly went to the grave because of betrayal. But today, I choose not to let hatred bury me again. I forgive Dr. Daniel. The hall gasped. Some people clapped, others murmured in disbelief. But Jackson's eyes remained firm. Forgiveness is not weakness, he continued. It is freedom. If my survival is to mean anything, let it teach us that love, not vengeance, writes the final chapter. Weeks later, Dr. Daniel was released after serving 3 long years, instead of the 5 he was sentenced to. He walked out of prison a frail man, his once proud face lined with regret. He had nothing left, no wealth, no family, no power. His medical license had been seized, and his family had abandoned him. In a tiny rented room on the outskirts of town, Dr. Daniel lived quietly, haunted by memories of the man he once was. He would often sit alone, staring into the silence, remembering his beautiful family, the hospital built for him by Mr. Andrews' family, the car they bought, the house they built, all gone. Tears streamed down his face as the weight of it all returned. He whispered to the empty walls, his voice trembling. Fear destroyed me. Let my mistake teach others what I failed to see. Back at the mansion, Jackson and Benny often sat in the garden together with their spouses, watching their children play. They spoke not of betrayal anymore, but of hope. Jackson would smile at Benny and say, we lived through death, and now we live for life. And as the sun set behind them, painting the sky with golden fire, their story stood as a testimony that even from the grave hope can rise. That from betrayal love can bloom. That from ashes dawn will always come. But one name was never forgotten, Mr. Michael Andrew, Jackson's uncle. In prison, he suffered for many long years, and in the darkness, he vowed one thing, revenge. Watch out for the next episode of this story. For now, stay strong, stay steady, and don't forget to drop your thoughts and observations in the comment section. What's your view about this story? If you were in Jackson's shoes, would you have forgiven Dr. Daniel? Where are you watching from? If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful and emotional stories.